Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who have been following my last several weeks of videos, you know that I just spent an extended period exploring Vietnam from top to bottom. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Claire Hawkins. I'm a traveling singer-songwriter, and I just got back from an epic Southeast Asia backpacking trip. There was a lot that I didn't know when I arrived in Vietnam, and a lot of things that would have saved me a little bit of time and money and hassle had I had this video at the start of my Vietnam planning. So if you're planning a trip to Vietnam, or you're just curious what a trip to Vietnam is like, sit back, relax, enjoy, maybe grab a nice little drink. We're gonna get into it. If I may break the fourth wall a little bit here, I am back home in New York City, and it's currently 97 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually quite reminiscent of the temperatures that I experienced in the south of Vietnam. So you might be hearing a little AC in the background, but it's ambiance, it's Vietnam. I'm gonna break this video up into a few different categories, and we're starting with planning your trip. We're gonna start with the very first mistake I made on my Vietnam trip. I made this mistake before I even arrived in the country, and that was my visa. There is contradictory information online. I believe the laws were somewhat recently changed, so I misread, misunderstood, and thought that I could get a visa on arrival in the airport like I did for neighboring countries such as Cambodia and Laos. This is not true. You absolutely need to apply for your visa online several days in advance. I think there might be a few nearby countries that are exempt from this visa requirement, but if you're visiting from a country like the US, like I was, make sure you apply for that visa days in advance. Otherwise, what will happen? You will not be able to get on your flight. You will have to lose some money to rebook a flight and stay an extra night in whatever country or city you're in the day before. I was pretty lucky, all in all, for that messy of a travel situation. It all worked out okay. I had to spend an extra night in Vientiane in Laos, but it was expensive and a bummer and a very avoidable mistake that none of you are going to make because you've seen this video. A single entry visa is going to cost you $25 US. You can pay more to extend that visa or to get a multi-entry visa if you're going to be coming and going in and out of Vietnam. But if you're going to do a trip similar to mine, a single entry visa will do just fine. You just got to apply in advance. Moving on to the fun stuff, let's talk about your itinerary options. Vietnam is a very north-south country, so I really recommend either starting in the north and moving south like I did, or starting south and moving north. I'm under the impression that most people start in the south and move north. I'm also under the impression that most people prefer the north of Vietnam, so there's a sort of save the best for last kind of attitude. I loved it all, so I had no complaints about my itinerary. But the thing that's really important to remember is that you don't want to fly to the middle of the country and then go up or down and then reverse. It's just complicated. Just follow the straight line. Go north to south or south to north. As for my personal itinerary, I flew into Hanoi and then did a day trip to Ha Long Bay. I also did the Ha Giang Loop, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. I then moved to the middle of the country where I stayed in Da Nang for a week and then spent a day in Hoi An. And then finally, I made it to the south of the country where I was based out of Ho Chi Minh City, but then flew over to the island of Phu Quoc as well, then flying back to Hanoi to leave Vietnam at the end of my stay. Because, as I said, this is a very north-south country. It's a very large country. There are a lot of different climates. So when I was on the beach in Phu Quoc, yes, I was wearing shorts and tank tops, bathing suits, but when I was all the way up north by the China border in Ha Giang, I was wearing leggings, sneakers, a long sleeve fleece. You got to make sure that you pay attention to the weather. Don't just assume, oh, it's Southeast Asia, everyone's in short sleeves. Parts of the country are like that, but parts of the country get quite cold, especially at certain times of year. So make sure you're doing a lot of research before you pack for this trip. If you're a digital nomad like myself, I highly recommend the city of Da Nang. It's a perfect mix of a very developed, big city feel with also incredible beaches and, of course, great food, friendly people, everything you can expect from a Vietnamese city. But it really felt a little different from everywhere else I went. It was also definitely the city with the best co-working cafe options. Hanoi has some amazing coffee shops, but they're not the type where you go with a laptop. They're much more the type where you go and sit with a coffee and a friend. So take that into account. I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of travelers make in Vietnam is trying to see everything. You cannot. You simply cannot see everything. I spent a lot of travel days trying to fit in as many places in the country as possible. I have absolutely no regrets. But of course, I left feeling like there were so many more places I wanted to see, and I definitely could not have fit anything more into my itinerary. So It feels like silly advice to give, but come for as long as you can. If you have that flexibility, there's so much to see and do in Vietnam. But the other beautiful side of that is there's always a reason to come back. Moving on, we need to talk about budgeting for your trip. Generally speaking, Vietnam is a very affordable country, and if you're coming from the US like myself, your dollar does go very far. The local currency in Vietnam is the Vietnamese dong, and I think it's fair to say that the exchange rate was roughly 25,000 dong to 1 USD, but of course, make sure to check the currency right before you go. I really recommend having a currency converter app on your phone. I have one that works offline, so if for some reason I didn't have service, although I did because I had a SIM card, so make sure you get a SIM card. It's really helpful because sometimes doing all that math, it's easy to get a little confused if you're in the middle of haggling at a market. When determining your budget for Vietnam, it's really important to factor in how many extra excursions you want to do. By excursions, I mean things like a Ha Long Bay cruise, which really ranges. You can do a very budget one-day option like I did, or you can do a multi-night luxury cruise. Very different experiences and very much something to take into account when you're budgeting. Another extra excursion that I think is well worth budgeting for is, of course, the Ha Giang Loop. I think I might actually make an entire other video of my thoughts and tips on the Ha Giang Loop because I have so much to share, but it costs roughly a little over $200 US for a couple nights, and it's just something that if you can budget the money and the time for, it's really, really worth doing. In Ho Chi Minh City, I also went on a motorbike tour and I had so much fun. I was really lucky. No one else booked the tour that day, so I ended up with a private tour for the price of a group tour. However, I would really recommend splurging and booking a private tour because it meant that I got to really get to know my driver, who was a local young person and gave me a really, really interesting view of the city. And because it was just me, I got to request certain locations. It was really special, and that is another thing that's definitely worth splurging on. In the bigger cities, you will find some opportunities to pay by card, but generally speaking, you should expect to pay in cash. So make sure to have cash on you, especially when bargaining. Bargaining is very much a part of the culture in Vietnam, particularly at markets. You'll have some very interesting experiences. This should go without saying, but don't lowball locals. They will expect you to bargain. It can be kind of fun. Some of the people in the markets are very funny with the way that they'll go about bargaining. On the reverse side of that, you also might find some people that are hoping to take advantage of your lack of familiarity with the currency. I had someone at a market try to charge me $40 for a t-shirt that was being sold for $2 at every other stand in the same market. And when I pushed her on it, she did not back down, which means she must have had success selling $40 t-shirts before. So watch out. Definitely just stay vigilant and stay kind, and you'll have a great experience and you'll get some fun souvenirs. When it comes to accommodation in Vietnam, there's quite a wide range of options. You can spend as little as a couple of dollars a night on a dorm bed, or on the reverse of that, I'm sure you can spend many, many hundreds of dollars on a luxury hotel room. I found the hostels in Vietnam to be really, really incredible, but it's also worth every now and then a little splurge on a hotel night because generally you can get a very nice place for not that much money. Hostels are also great for booking excursions or activities. You don't always need to be staying at a hostel to book through them, so that's something that's worth looking at online, or even just going into a hostel and asking at reception. Of course, you're also going to need to budget for how you're going to travel within the country, which brings us to our next category, transportation. The overnight buses in Vietnam are a bit of a rite of passage for a lot of backpackers, but I have to admit I didn't actually take any proper overnight buses. I'm a digital nomad, so I needed to make sure that I had Wi-Fi and access to work the whole time I was there. So personally, I opted for budget airlines. I did, however, get to experience sleeper buses to and from the Ha Giang Loop, but those were only about 6 hours, and personally, I felt like that was the perfect amount of time, especially because those buses did not have bathrooms. So 6 hours was plenty. In all honesty, I actually did find the sleeper buses very, very cool. And I think that doing just about a 6-hour ride was the perfect amount to get to experience it without experiencing 18 hours. If, like me, you're opting for flights throughout the country, but you're still looking to stay on the budget-friendly side of things, I recommend the budget airline Vietjet. It's very similar to a Ryanair or an EasyJet if you've taken those airlines throughout Europe. It's no frills, there's nothing luxury about it, but it gets you where you need to go, and all the flights I took, I think, were between 50 and 80 USD, which was pretty affordable if you ask me. There were a couple of somewhat scammy feeling practices with this airline, so I do just want to warn you about a couple of them. One is that if you're traveling with a carry-on suitcase, I saw many people be told that they had to pay extra to check those when they arrived at the airport, even if they were carry-on regulation size. Personally, I was traveling with a backpack, so I didn't have to deal with that. But what I did have to deal with was being told I had to pay extra for a name change fee because the name on my ticket didn't match the name on my passport, because when I booked the ticket, there was no option to add a middle name, but I have a middle name. It was a little weird. It happened enough times that I kind of got the impression that they either get you with charging you for your carry-on or for the name change. It was only $5, so it wasn't a big deal, but it was a little frustrating that it happened every single time. One of my favorite things about this airline, though, besides, of course, the affordable prices, is that every single flight you take plays the same song called Hello Vietnam. It has English lyrics, and I promise you, if you are traveling on Vietjet through the country, you will never get this song out of your head. It still pops into my head sometimes and I sing it. If you've traveled within Southeast Asia before, then you're probably already familiar with the app Grab. This is the equivalent of Uber in Southeast Asia. It's a fantastic app, super reliable. You can use it to call a car to get from the airport to your accommodation with all your luggage, but maybe more excitingly and certainly more fun is calling a Grab bike to get around town. Grab bikes are pretty much exactly what they sound like. Someone will drive up in a green Grab uniform, hand you a helmet, and you hop on the back of their motorbike and they'll take you where you need to go. They're also really affordable. I think I had some Grabs that were 87 cents before tip, which is really, really, truly incredible. For our last category, let's talk about general culture in Vietnam. Obviously, the official language of the country is Vietnamese, and while English isn't spoken everywhere, Google Translate is used everywhere. I saw so many instances of people having full-on conversations by speaking into the Google Translate app and just passing a phone back and forth. It was a very cool thing to witness and a really nice way to talk to some of the locals myself. Definitely download the Google Translate app on your phone. You can also use it to take pictures of menus or signs, and the app will translate the entire thing for you, which is just really, really handy. Always learn a few words in the local language like hello, thank you. Don't forget to smile. The Vietnamese people are so friendly, and as long as you're a respectful tourist, they're happy that you're there. Now we gotta talk about crossing the street. I was very worried going into Vietnam for the first time because I had heard all these crazy stories about how insane traffic is in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi and how hard it is to cross the street and how dangerous it can be, that I was almost underwhelmed. Don't get me wrong, crossing the street is intimidating, but it's not impossible. And maybe I was just pulling from my jaywalking New Yorker side. There are very specific rules that you can follow that will make crossing the street a breeze, and you'll get used to it after a couple of days. The most important thing is keep a steady pace. Do not hesitate and start and stop and speed up and slow down, because if you do that, the motorbikes will not know where you're going, and it makes it a lot harder for them to go around you. If you keep a constant pace, give them a look, give them a head nod, a smile, they see you, they'll go around you, they'll slow down. They don't really stop, but they will slow down and they will avoid you, and it is something that just takes a little getting used to. One thing that I was pleasantly surprised to see was just how prevalent exercise is in Vietnam. Every single morning I saw people of truly all ages out for walks, jogs, Tai Chi in the park. I found it really inspiring and just so nice to see. Of course, one of the most important parts of culture is food. If there are just 3 dishes that it should be illegal to leave the country without trying, they are pho, banh mi, and bun cha. Pho, you're probably familiar with. It's a delicious noodle soup, usually served with pork and all sorts of veggies. And I have to say, I did not know how much I love pho until I came to Vietnam and had it there. I've always liked it, but there's something about the pho actually in Vietnam that's just another level. And it's going to make it very hard to eat pho back home in New York City. Banh mi is another dish that you're probably also familiar with. It originated during the French colonial period in Vietnam. Banh mi actually translates simply to just bread in English, and that is because the bread is the very iconic part of this street food. It is a sandwich made with a French-style baguette, and on it you can put truly anything. I had chicken banh mi, I had pork banh mi. It always has lots of veggies. Often they have cilantro. There's a lot of different ways you can get it, and they're all delicious. They're all about $1 or less sometimes, and you can find them all along the streets of any city in Vietnam. Bún chao was my new favorite from this trip in Vietnam. It is a pork noodle soup specifically found in the north of Vietnam, and it is so delicious. You can also get bún ca, which is a version with fish. It's slightly sweet, it's a great mix of flavors, and it's really easy to find on the streets in North Vietnam. Speaking of street food, one experience that you can't leave the country without having is eating a meal on the little blue and red plastic stools on the streets outside of restaurants in Vietnam. It's how locals eat. It's a great way to experience some really incredible food with some of the best people watching you'll find. Vietnam is known for great food and great coffee. There are 4 types of specialty coffees that I want to recommend that you try while you're here in Vietnam. The first, a classic Vietnamese coffee. Vietnamese coffee is going to be served with condensed milk, so it's very sweet, but it's also very strong. So don't let that sugary flavor mislead you. You don't want to have too many cups of Vietnamese coffee or you will be shaking throughout the day. You also want to make sure that you try egg coffee. And yes, that is what it sounds like. Instead of milk, this coffee has egg in it. It's really sweet, really creamy, and really rich. Another unique option is salt coffee. This type of coffee uses salt to counteract the sweetness of the condensed milk, and it gives a nice balance. But it also kind of tastes salty, which was really unique. Lastly, my personal favorite, coconut coffee, which uses coconut cream or coconut milk. They're so delicious. I had them so many times, especially throughout the Ha Giang Loop. In general, you're gonna find lots of fantastic food throughout Vietnam, but I wouldn't just walk into any random place without doing your research. I use Google Maps pretty religiously while I'm traveling. One thing to look out for is that a lot of restaurants throughout Vietnam do offer a discount in exchange for a 5-star review. So it's possible that not all of the reviews that you read are 100% genuine, but in general, I was able to find some really great spots off of Google reviews. And of course, when in doubt, you can check out all of my Vietnam vlogs to see where I ate, because I promise, if I don't like a place, it doesn't go in the vlog. Now comes the fun part of the video where you all get to tell me what I left out. There is so much to say about Vietnam. I might have to make a part 2. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if there's anything that I forgot to include, because like I said, Vietnam is an incredible place with so much to see. I'm gonna have to plan another trip because there's a lot more that I didn't get to. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm so grateful for this entire experience and for the friends I met along the way. So whether you've been following the channel from the beginning or you found this channel because of my Vietnam videos, I'm so grateful that you're here. As always, the music in my videos is my own original music. The song at the start of this video was my original song, Foreign Voice, which you can find wherever you listen to music online by searching Claire Hawkins or linked in the video description. Thank you all again so much for watching, and stay tuned for next week's video.
I'm working on my foreign